So you want to create maximum spin on your wedges. Here's how. There's a couple different factors that I'm going to talk about in this video. Equipment, technique, and then different course conditions that may affect your spin. So number one, equipment. The one thing that I see that's most common is dirty grooves just like this. Now when the grooves are dirty, the club won't be able to catch within the grooves, so the club won't be able to catch within the grooves and get that backspin that you really want, right? So when the club moves up the ball, it spins backwards. But when there's stuff in between the grooves, the ball won't be able to backspin as much as usual. So what we're going to want to do first is clean up that club face, right? So now that that club face is completely clean, it's going to be a lot easier for us to spin that ball backwards, okay? Okay, number two, it's going to be how new your club is. Now I'm not saying you should go out there and buy a new wedge instantly, but I'm also saying that if you have a 20-year-old wedge with the grooves that are worn, it won't spin as much as a new ball, as a new club. And that's just how the club works, how deep the grooves are, right? As you use the grooves will slowly become less and less deep as the metal is worn away, and then the grooves won't be as effective as a new club. So a club that came out in 2025 will have better spin rates than a club that came out in 2011 or 2012. That's just how it works. So make sure you take that into account. Now, number three in terms of equipment is going to be your ball, right? Your ball affects the spin rate a lot. If you're using a range ball like I am here, it will not spin as much as a normal ball, right? Wilson, Unlimited Premium, or Limited Premium, these won't spin as much as they've been used. The dimples in them have been used more, so they just won't spin as much. Now, the more premium you get, the higher spin it will give you, right? So if you're using a Pro V1, the ball will spin more than if you're using a vice ball, and that's just how the ball is made and the different cores that they create. In addition to that, if you're using a soft ball with the soft covering on it, these are hard covers, so if you can listen, these are soft, right? There's a different sound you get. If you were to bounce a Pro V1X, which is a harder type of ball, it would sound different, right? The hard ball will not spin as much as it takes more effort and more speed to compress it and overall make it spin more. That's why it's used for higher speed players or tour players in general. They get to pick which one they like to use more. So after equipment, we now have technique, okay? So technique is gonna be super simple. There's two things in your technique that you can do to help spin the ball more, and that's loft and speed. So what I see a lot of golfers do with their wedges is they come up and then they come down all lazily like this. Now, if you want spin, you're gonna have to come up slow, which is fine. You're gonna have to accelerate through the ball. When you accelerate through the ball and there's more speed for the grooves to work, the ball will spin more. So, now loft is described as the angle the club is making. So this would be a high loft, this would be a lower loft, right? The loft is the angle the club makes with the ground. So let's say the ground is here, this would be the ground level, this would be about 45 degrees, and this would be about 90 degrees of loft, right? So we're gonna want as much loft as possible by not opening the face, okay? When you open the face, it'll lead to just inconsistent distances with our shots. Now, for certain shot types, I would definitely recommend it. If you're trying to flop the ball, get it nice and high and soft. But we're trying to hit longer wedges that backspin. So take your highest lofted wedge if you want to hit the most backspin. If you're using a 60 degree, 56 degree, I have a 54 here, and that will work perfectly fine. Instead of using your pitching wedge, as they will spin less than if you're using your 54 or 56 degree. Okay. So now that we have loft and speed out the way, I just wanted to describe speed a bit more for you. Now when you're hitting your 30-yard shot, I like to hit my 30-yard shot from here. We don't want to just drop our hands and turn. We want to make sure when we're dropping our hands, we're turning fast through the ball. We're going to want to come back and turn through with some speed. Okay, we want to make sure we're not decelerating, as that will lead to less spin and less consistency. So pick a spot here, 30 yards, boom. Here, 50 yards, boom. Here, 70 yards. And then you can go full swing for your 90 to 100 yard shot, whatever works better for you. Now, number 3 is going to be course conditions. So if we look down here, this would be your semi-deep rough. That would be your deeper rough. Here, need to get it kind of deeper, but this is kind of the best it'll do. So that would be your deep rough. This would be your semi-deep rough. And then this would be your clean lie. So there's a little bit of grass, not much, basically nothing behind this ball. A little bit of grass behind this ball, and then a lot behind this ball. So when we're hitting these different lie types, we have to judge when we're on the course which shot type and how to play it. So for this type of shot, we have a tight lie, right? We can get a lot of ball contact on this. So when we're hitting this, we can almost get maximum spin with this type of shot because there's no grass interference before we hit the ball. It's called friction, right? So when there's grass in between, it'll slow down our club face and it'll make it less effective as there's grass in between before the ball hits. But when there's no grass, we're able to spin the ball more effectively, and you can actually play for some backspin when you're on the course. So, showing you hitting this ball. Right, so I'm able to catch it super nice and clean. It's gonna come down and sit where it is, if not spin back. Now, for your semi-rough conditions, a situation like this, you can actually, the ball will sit down a bit. You can have grass interference here, or you can have something where they call it a flyer lie, right? A flyer lie would be where the ball's actually sitting up, right? So you actually have to play less distance than what you would normally play. So I would think this ball, let's say I'm trying to hit it 80 yards, I would probably try and hit a 65 to 70 yard shot here, as the ball's gonna come out higher with more speed than normal. So a flyer lie like this might have less spin, but it will go further than normal. Now normally, so you have to definitely adjust for that when you're on the course. Now normally with a semi-deep rough, there's gonna be grass interference before the ball here. So when I'm hitting this type of shot, I'm planning for a bounce and maybe a check or a little bit of rollout. So again, when I hit this ball, the same standard stuff, just want to be going with speed, and then we can swing through the ball going to hit a punch shot there. Okay, so it bounces, checks, and then a little bit of rollout before it stops. Okay, now deep rough, right? There's no real deep rough condition here. I can only really show you something like this, right? This is what I would consider deep, if not deeper rough, where the ball is really sitting down. The ball's sitting down in the grass. It's going to be a lot harder to get that ball contact first, as there's a lot of grass here in between the club. Okay, so what we're going to want to do here is now prep for a big bounce and a lot of rollout. Okay, so when I'm hitting this type of shot, I hit it the exact same way, but we're going to want to definitely prep for more rollout and more bounce here. So that was a little bit more punchy. I tried to get it out of that spot by hitting a big divot. So the last thing I want to talk to you about for course conditions would be firm and soft greens. Okay, there's a difference between firm and soft. Softer greens would be if it just rained, and if you were playing a softer course. Firmer greens would be almost PGA Tour level, where you see the ball bounce and really roll out, even though they get a ton of spin. So for softer greens, you'll see a lot more spin. Because they're soft, the ball's able to be receptive when it hits the green, and it can really grab, as the grass might be a bit longer, and it'll be able to sink into the green a little bit more. Now with firmer greens, think of it as almost hitting a pile of paper, right? You're bouncing it on paper, it's gonna take a big bounce, right? It's gonna not want to grab and be as receptive, so it won't spin as much on firmer greens as it will on softer greens. So just something to keep in mind. Know what greens you're playing, if they're softer, if they're harder, if they're faster, if they're slower, and be able to adjust your wedge shots from there. So the next time you're on the course, give these a try. I guarantee you'll start to spin your wedges better if you do a couple of these tips, and let me know how it goes for you down below. The subscribe link is here, and my recent video is right here. Check them out.